project, we did the role of interpreters. Let's talk about a little bit about the history, certifications, and services.
Well, history, the first known interpreter is completely unknown, but in the 20th century, the interpreter was known as a family friend or a counselor or a helper. It wasn't exactly somebody who was professional or anything. They were used to be volunteers. They were not formally trained, and the only techniques they knew were the little bit of English, a little bit of sign language, and they always were willing to help. The first example of interpreting training, though, was in the United Kingdom in 1928 with the Deaf Welfare Examination Board. They tested a number of skills, but they basically tested language interpreting. That was present until 1976 when interpreting actually became a profession. The demand for interpreters wasn't really in full effect in the United States until after World War I, because sign language became an official language, and the ASL became an official language, which means the standardization of it made it easier for interpreters to get a job, because all of the language was the same finally. The Registry of Interpreters for the Deaf, RID, is a national professional organization for ASL. It was established in 1964, again, after World War I. It was established the interpreter certification standards and put into place a code of ethics for all the members. That also led to interpreter training programs, ITPs, which were established in the 70s, and it was 6 to 8 week training. It focused on settings which interpreters might work, like court, medical settings, schools, etc. They focused on vocab building, and there was a very small discussion on the emotional process with it, because there was no scholarly reports to go off of, like how to talk, how to become that person you were interpreting for. And today, now ITPs are 2 to 4 years of training. They award certificates and degrees of completion, and there's actually postgraduate levels of study too. And in 2002, there was the first national video relay service for deaf people, which allowed services for deaf to sign to the interpreter using video cameras. The hearing person would then translate the ASL into English for the hearing people on the other end of the phone and vice versa. So that's kind of where we are now with interpreters.
Now I'm going to look at like a professional code of conduct and where you can go to if you would like to become a deaf interpreter, or if you're looking for an interpreter yourself if you're deaf or hard of hearing. There's a registry of interpreters for the deaf. And like I said, if you're a deaf individual or hard of hearing individual, you can go there and find an interpreter, or if you're interested in becoming an interpreter, you can go and apply and get certified to be on their registry. The Professional Code of Conduct, their philosophy there is that the American deaf community represents a culture and linguistic group having the inalienable right to full and equal communication and to participate in all aspects of society. Members of the American deaf community have the right to informed choice and the highest quality of interpreting services. Recognition of the communication rights of America's women, men, and children who are deaf is the foundation of the tenets, principles, and behaviors set forth in the code of this professional conduct. The tenets there for the registry is the interpreters adhere to standards of confidential communication. Interpreters possess the professional skills and knowledge required for the specific interpreting situation. Interpreters conduct themselves in a manner that is appropriate to the specific interpreting situation. Interpreters must demonstrate respect for their consumer at all times. They also must demonstrate respect for their colleagues, interns, and students of the profession. Interpreters must maintain ethical business practices and engage in a professional development regularly. To be registered on the registry for interpreters, your educational requirements, if you're a hearing individual, the exam candidates must have a minimum of a bachelor's degree. It can be in any field, or it has to be part of the approved alternative pathway for eligibility that is set forth by the Registry of Interpreters. And if you're a deaf individual who is interested in interpreting, you only have to have an associate's degree. And again, that can be in any field that you can obtain your degree in. There's 5 different areas or types of certification that you can have and qualify for. You can test under and have. It is the National Interpreter Certification, the Oral Transliteral Certification, the Specialist Certification, the Educational Certification for grades K through 12, and the conditional legal interpreting permit.
The first type of interpreting is oral interpreting. This is when an interpreter mouths the words. For example,
I have 2 brothers and 3 sisters.
the second type of interpreting is sign language interpreting. This is when I sign what I hear. For example,
I have 2 brothers and 3 sisters.
the next one is voice interpreting, where the deaf person signs and I interpret. I have 2 brothers and 3 sisters. Next is tattoo. This is used with deaf-blind people. Bad interpreting. Hi. Her name is Victoria. She's deaf. She grew up deaf with her mother and father. She lives in a little house in Atlanta.
Oh, hey girl, what's up?
Hey.
Where you been?
I was down there, and then I had to come up here and interpret for her or whatever. So
Oh, that's cool. So she can't hear me?
no, she can't hear anything. It's
Okay,
cool,
well,
right?
Yeah, I know.
Ah.
Alright, well, here's the bus.
Alright,
I'll see
see
you
ya.
later.
She was bad. The children teased her, obviously. She never went to class. Her teacher didn't want her as a teacher. I don't know. Sure. Good interpreting. Hi. My name is Victoria. I'm deaf. I grew up deaf with my mother and father. I live in a little house in Atlanta. When I was little, it was hard. Other children, they used to tease me. I never wanted to go to class. My teacher just wouldn't teach me. Ugh.
Now I'm going to talk to you guys about some services that are here locally in the Clark County school systems. There are 37 deaf, hard of hearing students that are being served within the 3 schools, and there's almost twice that number that are being served in home schools in the area. And there are a small number that go to the 2 state schools for the deaf. In Athens, Clark County, there's Cleveland Road Elementary, Bernie Harris Lyons Middle School, and Clark Central High School, and all 3 of those have interpreters and pull-out classes and mainstream, just different options for students who are deaf or hard of hearing. Interpreters are there within the classrooms to help facilitate communication between the students, the hearing students, and the teachers. They just have to be a natural part of the classroom. They provide support for the younger students, and as the students grow older and go into higher grade levels, then they kind of fade out and the students become more independent. The students usually respond really well to these interpreters just because they see them as another teacher. They're there for them. And students are usually exposed to a variety of different interpreters, but they don't lean on just one. According to Clark County Schools, when they're looking to hire an interpreter, they look for the appropriate credentials from the Registry of Interpreters, experience working with students K through 12, previous experience working with deaf adults, good interpersonal skills and work ethic, They have to be flexible and willing to work in a variety of situations, including independently, part of a large team, or just one-on-one with the students. If for anyone that's hoping to become an interpreter, these are some advice that's offered from Clark County. Spend as much time as possible seeking out opportunities to interact with deaf adults. Deaf children don't usually have the sign language skills that deaf adults do, and so if you want to be an interpreter and you want to have mastery of the language, then they suggest interacting with adults as much as possible. They also suggest finding a mentor, taking as many sign language classes as you can, getting in a high-quality interpreter training program, and get used to being videotaped. If you're a parent in the Clark County schools and you have a child or a student that is deaf or hard of hearing, you would be offered all of these services through the school system during the IEP process. These services include speech-language services, educational audiology services, interpreting services, and sign language classes for the parents at no cost. And all of these are offered because of ADA